The market's crashing and a recession's coming. What does this mean for you? Hi, I'm James Clark, broker owner of Century 21 Alton Clark. If you're watching this, you're probably wondering, like a lot of people, what's going to happen to the real estate market? Well, that's a difficult thing to predict, clearly. But I wanted to share some information with you that might at least provide some clarity for you if you're thinking of buying or selling. So where should we start? Well, we should first take a look at the statistics. Here you'll see the national sales are down to 5.4 million, which is actually down 3.4% from April and down 8.6% from 1 year ago. Also, nationally, the median home price has risen yet again to $407,600. This is an increase of more than 14.8%. Let's call it 15. This is crazy. So you see that sales are down, but prices are up. Clearly, that's not good. All that being said, you're probably asking yourself, what's the reason for this recent slowdown? Well, first I wanted to clarify something, and I want to let you know that I feel that it's more of a return to normalcy. But let's take a look at what are some contributing factors to all of this and why we should be paying attention to what's going on. The first are some of the obvious things, like the recent Fed benchmark interest rate hike of 0.75 percentage point, which, by the way, is the biggest increase since 1994. 1994, remember those days? The movie Forrest Gump had just come out. Man, I wonder what Forrest would think about the Fed interest rate hike.
Are you crazy? Or just plain stupid?
Stupid as stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
I couldn't agree more with Forrest. Just take a look at how the monthly mortgage payment for the same house 1 year ago has changed. Last year, a $400,000 house at 3% was $1,686 a month, and now that same house is $480,000 with an interest rate of 5.1%. That changes the buyer's payment on that same house to $2,606. That's nearly $1,000 more a month. Yikes, right? Now, some people are pointing to things like wage growth of 6%, doing positive things, but I gotta be honest with you, all that stuff's being outpaced by consumer price inflation, which now sits at 8.5%. And guys, that's a 40-year high. So let's take a little bit deeper and more careful look at the numbers. And you're gonna see that all this translates into the average buyer spending $500 more a month, or $6,132 annually. Okay? This increased spending on consumer goods means less money for a mortgage payment, right? Translating into the average buyer looking for a home, listen to this, that's $40,000 cheaper than before. This is all according to a recent article from the National Association of Realtors. But it's pretty significant stuff, wouldn't you agree? Now, if that wasn't enough, rates have been all over the place, giving buyers whiplash, shooting up past 6%, then yo-yoing back down into the mid fives. And I gotta tell you, this volatility is causing buyers concerns. In a recent Realtor.com article, they indicate that it doesn't appear that the volatility is going away due to market fears surrounding inflation and a looming recession. Now, quick side note, in case you were wondering, mortgage rates averaged 5.51% for a 30-year fixed loan in the week ending July 14th, according to Freddie Mac. So, what's the result of all this interest rate movement, you're probably asking? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, it's pretty simple. All this happens, this leads to mortgage rate demand falling to its lowest levels in 22 years. That's what happens. Again, these factors aren't good. And it makes it easy to see why our current financial picture is scaring both buyers and sellers alike. This is actually leading to my next point, which is buyer fatigue. It's another contributing factor. During this crazy period, in this really hot market, we saw buyers would lose bids in the double-digit range.
What? No soup for you.
Right? They'd be submitting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bids, and then simply get frustrated, and then decide to stay put or rent. I've heard it all. And add that to the fact that houses they were interested in originally went up drastically. Now interest rates are pushing up their monthly mortgage payment, like I just said. And it's no wonder a lot of these buyers have jumped back on the fence. and are waiting to buy. Now, here's the issue. The question that buyers should be asking themselves is waiting really the right move? And if so, how long should they wait, if they wait? Well, check out this household wealth graphic, comparing the wealth of renters versus homeowners from 2016 to 2021. It's pretty staggering, okay? Pretty obvious what you should be doing. However, you also need to look at what experts say about the next couple of years. According to the New York Federal Reserve, home price growth in the next year is expected to go up 5.1%, right? And next year, it's actually expected to go up another 2% in 2024. And actually, a lot of the different surveys and studies that are being done say the same thing. So is now a good time to buy? Well, that choice is kind of subjective for every family, but I wanted to share the picture with you that pricing and affordability don't appear to be getting better anytime soon. So another reason for the market cooling, and yes, it is cooling, it's the COVID migration. In my opinion, and what I'm starting to see is that it's slowing down. Look, all you gotta do is watch the news. Companies, local governments, a lot of people are starting to implement the return to work policies, right? And because of that, people aren't as motivated or even have the freedom to just uproot and come to Florida. Now, that being said, there's still a lot of people coming here. And as you can see by this existing home sales by region graphic here, compliments of the National Association of Realtors, people are still coming here in droves. Matter of fact, the South is the leader in sales nationally. So, with all of that being said, I'm sure there's a lot of buyers out there that are really thinking this thing through. What about sellers? Well, in my opinion, and stats support that, is that values are going to keep going up. The majority of experts feel that values are going to continue increasing, and here are some key points for you to consider. I'm sure all of you have heard that inventory is really, really low, and if you've heard that, you'd be correct. We currently sit at 2.1 months supply. For those of you who don't know, a more normal, a more healthy market is somewhere between 5 and 6 months supply. But wait, there's more. Housing starts in the United States sunk recently to 14.4%, and that is new homes being built. That is being attributed to elevated building material costs and supply chain constraints. Now, let's put this in a little more perspective. We're here at the lowest level of housing starts since the start of the pandemic. Okay, hopefully that provides some clarity. So, inventory levels are low, housing starts aren't making up the difference. The demand for homes as a result of all this should remain high, therefore propping up or keeping up values, keeping them elevated for the next couple of years. I could be wrong, but when you look at all of this, the end result seems to be pretty clear. Home ownership and home values should remain a positive thing, but please understand, I don't have a crystal ball, and this is all subjective. It could change at a moment's notice, given the volatility of today's climate. We're just one bad press conference away from all of this changing, right? So what's my message to everyone considering buying or selling? Well, for buyers, now isn't a bad time, so long as you do your research and your due diligence, you make good decisions, you have good guidance from a professional realtor, shameless plug, and you also stay on budget. Speaking of staying, as long as you look to stay in your home for the long term, meaning 5-7 years plus, I think buying in today's market is great. Now, if you might need to sell in the next year or two, things might be a little bit, as my kids say, sketch or sketchy. So take that into consideration if you're thinking of buying, you want to stay. Now for sellers, the coming weeks, months, and hopefully years should be a good time to sell. Everything is timing based. But the real thing to think about prior to selling is what your next move is. I have clients right now who are selling and going into renting. They're selling everything and they're going RVing around the United States, traveling around the world, you name it. I recommend getting really clear on your next move prior to selling. I mean, if you have to buy, it's no big deal, but you should get going on all of this before the financial markets start to get even more volatile. Payments on your next house might get higher. You might be able to afford less. You see where I'm going? So listen, I know I've been rambling a lot, but I hope you guys got something out of all of this. And please know that if there's anything that we can do for you in real estate or otherwise, or if you have any questions on anything I've just covered, please don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is on the screen. Listen, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video. Take care, God bless, and see you next time.
You ain't seen nothing like this.